I think this should be the it we need. We shall see. It says excellent connection, which means that if it is, they can hear, like, the fucking gas I'm just passing, apparently. Alright, so, I'm just passing. Cool, that works. Somebody say other sounds? Other sounds?
Other sounds?
Hello,
Alright, cool.
hello.
Alright, I think we did. So, we'll get started relatively quickly. I'm going to share this on Twitter. Before I get going, though, for anybody who wants to oppose corruption, to stick it right there in the Karussi, there will be a link in, like, the chat to a survey sort of thing, to a petition. Appeal, yeah, to an appeal that will let you go against the Libertarian Party's corruption that they engaged in yesterday in Rhode Island.
This time you won't get kicked out of respective parties or caucuses you might belong to, because the signatures will not be public.
Yeah,
I'm hearing.
You will have to be a Libertarian Party sustaining member or a delegate in order to sign. But besides that, yeah, what they said.
And also, for those of you who want to support the channel in other ways that are free than, like, what's in the description there, I should add this to it, because there's a lot that I have to do with my standard stream description. But for those of you who want to support the channel, there's an easy way that's free to do it if you have Amazon Prime. Go subscribe to me on Twitch and hit that gift subscription notification. You get a free gift subscription with your Prime, so you can go like watch me play video games or not, and just throw me a subscription for free should you choose. That would be up to y'all, but it would help. Also, be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, sacrifice your firstborn to a small animal. Tarantulas, hello. Yeah, you were here from the last stream. You're probably not gonna like this title or description any better, but it did seem to draw in the viewers. So, we'll see if this does well. If you're part of some group that got shared to, feel free to share this there as well. I do not have a problem with dissent in my comments, unlike the Libertarian Party. So,
so you're not gonna start deleting things in real time?
No, I mean, if they're like shit, like if they're trying to dox somebody, or like if it's nothing, like I'm maybe, but I didn't see any reason to last time. Like, even if you're just hateful, you're just proving me right, so whatever.
Basically, as long as you don't violate TOS and don't try to harm anyone,
yeah, it's
going to be okay with you.
You gotta not stick it in the TOS-y.
Yeah, whereas in the LP chat, you will be banned for just questioning the LNC.
Yeah, like you did. And like to be clear, this entire stream is trolling, and this is evidenced by the fact that we have the king troll of trolls on here with Liberty Sentries. So let's give some introductions. We'll start with John Stokes, we'll go to John Ponte, then we'll do Rose and Jamie.
Okay. I'm John Stokes. There's very little else to say other than that. I'm mostly here to learn.
You gotta, like, you can state bona fides, you can say, like, you know, I graduated top of my class in the Navy SEALs, I've got 10,000 raids against Al Qaeda.
Okay. Let's see. I'm a CPA and a certified teacher of English, math, and music.
Very cool.
Awesome sauce. All right, I'm John Ponte. I'm a writer and chief editor for Liberty Sentries. We do reporting, we do commentary, we do critique, as if it involves libertarianism, liberty movement, or the Libertarian Party, we'll have something on there about it. Yeah.
Rose.
And I'm Rose. You all know me by now. Patron saint of Real Libertarians, active member of the New York Libertarian Party State Committee, Communications Division, and Platform Committee. Also excommunicated member of the Mises Caucus, which is at this point a point of pride amongst real libertarians.
Mm-hmm. Fucking, it was bound to happen eventually. Those people.
Oh, I'm honestly surprised it took as long as it did. Like, I knew it would happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, real quick, after Jamie introduces, if you want, you can say a brief word on that. It's up to you.
I feel like we should do an entire stream on it at some point, a post-mortem of sorts.
Yeah, that'd be a thing. We could do that. Oh, also, we'll be doing a full part 2 on Friday to the RFK Jr. stream so that we can really drill down on some of his healthcare bullshit. And also, like, you know, get some better healthcare up in this biznatch. We went over a lot of the, like, broader strokes last time, so we'll be able to go over some of the finer stuff also. I got the scientific libertarian interested in coming on that day, so... I'm from California. If I do this with my hands a lot, it's because it's like a nervous tick. Like, everything has to be diagonal, lots of hand motions, orange everywhere, and also simultaneously bright white.
You're not throwing up gang symbols?
Yeah, like, I gotta do this thing and, like, always constantly doing something with my hands, like, really close to the camera. Yeah. Anyway, Jamie, hello.
Yep, Jamie. I am an anarchist that is active in the Libertarian Party. I am in the Libertarian Party of Michigan, and I'm an archaeologist as well, but I'm also formally sued by the LNC.
Yeah, formally.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll briefly hit on that, and we'll include that, and we'll do a group stream of a bunch of people who have been given the shaft by the Libertarian National Cock. But briefly, Jamie, if you want to talk about the settlement, feel free.
Well, we proposed a settlement because we have other things to worry about, being as we have conventions coming up with officer elections, and we have so we offered to basically settle based on the injunction and move on with our lives. And because the LNC are a bunch of broke bitches, they decided it was in their best interest to no longer pay lawyers.
You know, it's hilarious. She constantly bitches about lawfare, and they were, like, I think the first ones to do that in this fucking exchange.
Mm-hmm. They're acting like they've won, though. They're trying to spin the settlement as them having won.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, we were the ones that proposed the settlement and the exact language in the settlement, and it doesn't matter. I mean, if this was 2 years ago, maybe. But I mean, we're going into convention season, so what if they actually won?
Yeah. Well, anyway, like, so we'll talk about all of that in a general libertarian stream, but libertarians have something extra special to be angry about the Trump stuff with, because the Libertarian Party had their own candidate, and they endorsed Trump and violated their own bylaws and all that shit in order to make that happen. So that's the sort of reason a lot of these people are bitter. I'm bitter because I'm an asshole with voices in my head who were constantly telling me Trump was going to win, and it was going to be a Trump sweep, and we were going to have a completely right-wing government. And now, would you look at that? We have a, like, fully right-wing government, and Trump won, and it was a Trump sweep. So, if anybody was trying to get me to take medication, you failed, because they were right. Kareem, you can introduce yourself, but first get some earbuds, because your audio is here. We are hearing echoes.
I thought maybe I was hearing voices.
Well, you gotta upgrade your plan for that.
Okay.
So,
Sounds like they occasionally give useful advice, so
yeah.
Sign up for a trial and see if I like it, at least.
Yeah, it's a money back guarantee, in that if you steal somebody else's money, you can feel like you got a refund. You've got to go do a robbery, then you win. I don't know why Kareem left, but we'll get him back, I guess. He needs to go scrounge for some headphones, maybe. So I'm gonna mass share this in my Discord. Then we've got some chat comments we'll start off with, before we get too going, because we got a lot to say and a lot to say it about, and plenty of time this evening to do so. But we got Tarantulas says, "I'm a single entity in my investment here. Good conversations are always a good time." Well, and I hope we can provide that, because like the thing is, this channel operates differently on purpose. I want this channel to be a channel where a significant amount of people can meet and, like, you know, even if they've got differences, they can, like, still jibe in enough ways to get a constructive thing going. So, Kareem, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, I am Kareem. I'm an ANCAP man, an ANCAP stan.
So you're ANCAP man today, not ANCOM man?
I mean, I'm going to do a bunch of crypto videos, and I've been talking about XRP, so... You know,
okay,
I'm helping.
So you are ANCAP man today.
Helping the globalists a little bit. Just kidding.
Well, I mean, with XRP, maybe. Gotta get that you gotta get that XMR skrill.
All right, I'm just kidding. But I'm Kareem from Anarch Unity. Definitely recommend checking out some of Attack the System. Keith Preston writes very good articles, as well as you can find me on Kareem6633. I'm an advocate of all forms of anarchy, but especially syndicalism, if I had to pick one. And yeah, I'm just excited here. John, it's finally good to see you. So me and John were talking about, well, how can anarchists work together? And to me, that seemed like the logical thing, because we're seeing Angela now kind of like, well, you know, I worked with Trump, you know, had a deal. Come on, guys, there's a libertarian. It's RFK. He bought a package. Come on. And it seems to me every time anarchists work with their status counterparts, something bad happens. Now, actually, this is pretty mild to other stuff, because Trump's just screwing her over. It seems like, you know, when the left works with tankies, you get stuff like Trotsky, Mao. It's like, come on, hey. If you've ever seen that cartoon, which I've shared, it has Lucy with like the comrade hat, and it has Charlie Brown. It's like, hey, anarchists, we'll build stateless socialism this time. Promise. It's like, hey, we achieved it. Woo, the revolution. All right. Because everybody makes the joke, oh, you know, the communists are just, you know. I saw neocons saying we need to make communist education mandatory. I said, okay, you can teach the Holodomor, sure. But show that the CNTFAI actually increased production after collectivization. Let's talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. So yeah, I'm an advocate for people like Rudolph Rocker, Dave Graeber, all that stuff. I do like early Rothbard, and I'm excited to be here. Good seeing you guys. We're growing. The resistance is growing.
We are growing, but if we stay growing for more than 4 hours, we gotta. So
Hold on 1 second. Did you just say David Graeber?
Yeah, I've been reading his stuff, and a lot of people were like, you know, saying, oh, you know, don't. Every time people say don't look into somebody, I don't think they understand that it's like, oh, well, I should probably look into him.
The Streisand effect.
I've been digging up everything I can from David Graeber. The only thing I don't really agree is I think he believes in he's gone, in UBI.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else, like every other aspect, he's like, a lot of people spend their life doing meaningless work, just typing away, or just, you know, scrubbing away at the like factory floor or something. He's like, this is not necessary. He's like, well, if you give people leisure time, society will collapse. Well, actually, I don't think it will. He also has a really good quote on how anarchy isn't like this magical thing. It's just how humans behave when no one tells them how to behave. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'll finish it up because I don't want to detract, but I wrote my master thesis, and it was all because of my influence from Graeber. So I would love to do a whole Graeber stream.
We might someday. Well, actually,
yeah, let's do it.
What we should do
Bullshit Jobs was good because he touched on a very important issue, and that's that he may or may not be right for the correct reasons, but
what we'll
the
do
idea that like there are these mega corporations that are inherently inefficient and just make work where there doesn't need to be.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll have like an entire stream someday on some of these, like, sort of, I mean, maybe somewhat criminally underrated academics, etc. So we'll do
He's
that.
welcome.
We'll do it that at some point, and we'll include him. We'll do like an entire segment because that would be interesting, certainly.
I think he would say everything, including AI. You can get mad at that or not. But he would say everything that has led to, okay, take AI out of it, but everything else that you have. I mean, even Jeremiah would say like maybe he's against some of the AI, but I don't think he's going to whip out like a type or a little printing press and then get back to like the typing keys like this. So if that's true, like innovation has greatly gone up, but working hours have not. And his argument was, look, we live in a post-industrial society. Shouldn't labor be quick and easier, but it's longer, it's more intensive? That doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, the guy working 20, 30 years ago in a factory, maybe it wasn't the best existence in the 1970s and 80s. I wasn't around. There were still problems, but he could afford to live off of one job, where now it's like, okay, I got to work. And some of that's due to inflation, but some of that's also due to
makes perfect sense if you understand the monetary system.
We will get to that on a stream when we are not talking Trump, but we definitely can. We definitely should. And like, it's like that Fight Club quote that like when you have like characters that are like trying to reel people in, you have to like start from understanding where they're coming from, where the common person is coming from, in order to lure them into your cult. So he said some true things, like we work jobs we hate to buy shit we don't need to impress people we don't like. So it's true, but it's also like, don't join the fucking Paper Street Soap Company either. Because there's a way to respond to crises that don't involve toxic masculinity and counterproductive terrorism. But anyway, we should do culture streams. We should talk Fight Club. We should talk shit. And I should punch my desk because that's good for audio. Anyway, we got so let's start with the cabinet, with the obvious thing that we started before the stream. Let's start with Kash Patel. Who wants to start on Kash Patel?
I'll say this. I think the FBI is useless. Like a lot of this, Jack Lloyd, I'm going to say, is probably 100% right here. You can disagree with some of his stances, but the reason I still like Jack is he's pretty reasonable in the fact that when a new authoritarian pops up, with the exception, I don't agree with him on Malay, but every other regime, he's like, yeah, this isn't good. And to me, Kash Patel is like saying, oh, okay, we'll reform the FBI. I'll put them back to work, what they should be doing. Well, Ron Paul, in an interview in the 80s, said the FBI shouldn't exist. You can have regular, I wouldn't even say police activity. I'd say private police activity or community policing activity to handle things. We have stuff like Anonymous to do some of the cyber stuff. And I think the free market plus whatever you consider outside of that, could come up with some security way to handle criminals and things like that. Heck, maybe it's just Jeremiah posting this dude's a weirdo, and then people are like, oh, okay, don't associate, or other things. There's way to deal with things. So to me, Kash Patel is the way for people to go, oh, come on. I think this cabinet is a big, come on, conservatives, it's not so bad. Why don't you just try this flavor of statism? It's cool. It's hip. We got Elon. Come on, kids. We got Cash. We got Pete Pegseth. It's all good now. We're fighting the deep state. I'm like, you can't have a deep state without a state. So that's, to me, the problem with Kash Patel is maybe Kash Patel isn't a terrible person because I've seen him on Timcast. Would he be better than, say, some bureaucratic guy who's just using the FBI to target his political opponents? Maybe. But I don't see a point. The problem is with this, even if Kash Patel is like an upstanding guy, the best dude ever, goes to church on Sunday, whatever you consider the most moral person, and that can vary from subject. the department doesn't need to exist. It's kind of like saying, well, Kareem, I'm going to put you in charge of the CIA or the EPA, or people like joke, oh, let's put Assange in charge of the CIA. And I'm like, that's funny. I'm like, let's just get rid of it. Or put Kareem in charge of the DMV. I'm like, first of all, I get rid of it. Second of all, I don't see a point to it. They're like, well, without licenses, people would just smash cars and kill each other. I'm like, I doubt it.
Well, the DMV isn't
those roads. Finally,
the DMV isn't even like a licensing for learning organization. It's a revenue generation scheme. Like their whole purpose is to like basically we'll say effectively that like we're preventing accidents and we're helping people learn, but in the end run of it, it doesn't matter how safely you're driving as long as you're driving outside of regulations. What matters is that you didn't do something that they needed you to do in order to maintain the roads. You didn't pay your registration. You didn't get the right sticker. You didn't fill out the right form. You didn't, stick your cock in the blender in the right point. Like they're not doing anything in terms of like actual like stopping people from not knowing how to drive. And if they were, they wouldn't be enforced by highway patrol organizations or anything like that, because like those are always a way to prove that like you're not dealing with ideologically consistent people, like a motorcycle cop coming up and telling you that you need to wear a seatbelt, or a cop having to speed up in his car to like catch up to you to tell you that you were going too fast, which meant that he had to go faster than you were to get there. It's just objectively, shit things that we excuse as a society because the greater good, fuck the greater good.
Yeah, there is no such thing as that. Spike Killen has a good, when usually people say the greater good, that means they'll benefit them and not you. So they're finding a moral, oh, don't worry, we're just, it's, invading this country is for the greater good. Like the greater good? Like, oh, it was Raytheon and stuff. So to me, Kash Patel, whether he's good or bad, the FBI shouldn't exist. Ron Paul is generally right on. I'd say Ron Paul is right about 90% of things, 95% of things. Nobody's right all the time.
And then,
Ron Paul and Chomsky get stuff wrong. So he said the FBI shouldn't exist. I don't see a point for the FBI. So I don't really see a point for Kash Patel. I think Kash Patel might have some good intentions, but it's like G. Edward Griffin said, you can put good people into a bad system and they'll become good people. It's like I say, Jeremiah, I'll train you. And then I tell you not to do cardio. I tell you to eat not single ingredient foods. And even if I have good intentions with that, it's not going to work.
Well,
so
I mean, actually, it actually can work. Real quick, people should watch Mike Israetel, and he talks about getting good macros and doing more lifting for your like cardio and less like running and things like that, and how like the scientific meta studies actually kind of prove that you can do whatever you want as long as you keep it in balance and watch your macros and your like you do like graduated like what is it? It's called progressive overload, which you can do with the RP hypertrophy app. That's where the ad would drop. If you ever see this, Mike, I would take a sponsorship. Feel free to throw me one. But the general thing is, so like real quick before we get off the DMV, I think just real quick because this is something that really bothers me. The DMV is one of those organizations that's sacred. Well, car accidents or whatever. Yeah, the roads have to be safe so that you can get to your job, so that you can fuel the machine that's committing genocides. Like, the fact that, like, you're allegedly safer in your home society does not mean that the machine has not become exceedingly efficient at killing people there. So, I don't give a shit. They can go fuck themselves. Anyway, now we can move on, because I really needed to get my cock off on that one.
All right.
About the FBI, I guess, okay, if you believe like it, the original explanation for why it exists, which was to fight organized crime, like I guess you might believe that it can be reformed. Oh, okay, it just needs to be brought back to its original purpose. It was supposed to be fighting organized crime gangs or governmental corruption at the local level. So you need somebody who's above the local corruption who can actually do something about it. However, if you know anything about the history of the FBI, that's never what they actually did. They were a secret police force who was spying on political dissidents and infiltrating and breaking up counterculture movements from the beginning.
Yeah. And
So even if, like, Kash Patel has some of the right ideas, as in he seems to understand that there is systemic corruption within the FBI, like, you can't reform an organization like that. So I guess the question is, like, okay, if we don't have the power to dissolve it, is it better to put someone in power or put someone in charge of it who realizes that it's a corrupt institution, or someone who's a true believer?
Well, I would push back a little bit, because I don't think he actually thinks that it is corrupt in the same way that we do. I mean, Kash Patel is known for arguing to prosecute journalists, government leakers. I mean, this is the kind of corruption that libertarians have been crying about from the FBI, CIA, and other government entities. I think Kash Patel is the man for Trump, in that he will eliminate the system that went after Trump and his allies, but will in turn go after his enemies.
Right. Yeah, he's
when
not
it comes
opposed to. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to Kash Patel, it seems more that, simply put, whatever opposition he has to the FBI, as Jamie already said, is more not opportunistic, but more personal rather than on principles. The corruption that he's against is this alleged corruption against Trump. It's why whenever we see his statements, it's not necessarily him being against the corruption, the corruption of the FBI on principle, but more, it's a kind of almost an aesthetic, a smokescreen, something that, like, advertises itself, so it's more nice sounding to the general populace. When we have his comments in regards to journalists, I believe NBC News, I have an article up on him right now, a direct quote from him, from Kash Patel: "We're going to come after the people in the media who lied about American citizens, who helped Joe Biden rig presidential elections. Whether it's criminally or civilly, we'll figure that out." It seems more likely than not that what Kash Patel is focused on is simply going after those who went against Trump and trying to make it so that the government forces will be more in line with Trump. So when he calls for, defunding of the FBI or cutting of costs for the FBI, is that necessary? Should we believe that he's doing that on principled grounds, or should we not be cautious that he might either just want to make the FBI more friendly to Trump and his aims, or even to replace the FBI with a different organization if he was going to remove it entirely? You have to always be aware of these, because you can't really trust the words by itself, generally speaking. You have to look at the entire context of what they've been arguing for, what their positions have been, so on and so forth.
Yeah, and to be clear and fair and balanced and whatever, just there was that Time magazine article, and everybody bragged about how, like, accurate it was. That talked about how, like, they did. There was, like, a concerted media and politician and whatever. There was a conspiracy against Trump, and it was a good thing. So, like, the elites love this divide and conquer soap opera bullshit, where they can make it seem like there's some grand thing that's happening against somebody, so that when he comes in here, he seems like an outsider and, quote, our guy. But that's exactly what it is. Like, Trump isn't separate from them, and he knows it. He's playing his part. He's doing kayfabe. For those of you who don't know, part of kayfabe, which is like wrestling terminology, is like when you're in public, you still act like you're their enemy, even if you're not. Even if behind closed doors, you're buddies and like, you know, you're going out for drinks when you take the mask off, or you're not in that weirdly homoerotic like Speedo, you're still out doing like the thing. You're still like acting like, oh, I hate you. You're going down at WrestleMania. And like, you know, you're still doing that in public, even if it's not the case, and even if you know it's not the case.
Yeah,
And so like you're still doing this, and to me that's exactly what's happening. Like the media did this whole big like, you know, anime backstory about how like, oh, we did this entire conspiracy against Trump and it was a good thing and you should suck our cock now. And then like all the Trump supporters out there were like, yeah, he's our guy, the establishment conspired against him and that's why you should vote for him if you want real change. And now he's giving Israel a massive like fucking blank check. It's like, it doesn't matter, none of this matters. Real quick, go.
I used to think that was the case, though. Like, I used to think that was exactly what was going on back in 2016. Like, I'm like, he's clearly one of them, and this whole thing is a show. Like, I kind of rethought that after he took office, and like there was this huge meltdown. Like, okay, maybe it was all a show. I think he just represents an important divide within the ruling class between the ultra wealthy elites whose power spans like the entire globe and the nationalist elites.
I think so. I think Keith described it as they don't like him not because he's not part of the club. I mean, he's hanging out with Larry Fink. What do you want? Like the dude of BlackRock, the actual president of the United States. He's hanging out with the actual president. And when it's funny, George Carlin's like, they own everything. I'm like, that's hyperbolic. I'm like, no, they actually do. Well, I guess me and Jeremiah differ on this. I think they own. Yes, if you own a little bit of stock in everything, then you have a little bit of say in everything.
Well, right. And I wouldn't disagree with that statement. I'm just not going to claim that they own everything.
They don't own literally everything.
Right.
But
they don't own literally everything, but they have their hands in everything.
Yes.
So what I will say is, to the effect, Trump isn't not part of the deep state. He's part of the deep state. He's part of the club. He's part of everything. He was friends with Hillary when the cameras were off. Why they don't like him is, I guess they said he's kind of like a buffoon. Like it's like a CEO who comes in and their tie's not, you know, he doesn't play the game like George Bush or Obama, where it's this nice, even though Bush
respectability politics.
Yeah. Respectability. Yeah, I guess they want kind of somebody who's like Biden or Kamala or Bush or Hillary. That's like, okay, or Romney. That's kind of the if you want to call it establishment, like
your establishment.
Yeah, like Tim Pool actually said, like, I want like a proper statesman, something like that. Now, I laughed when he said that, but they want somebody who's suit and tie, you know, follows the same way. They don't want somebody who's gonna, you know, kind of have it. And if you look at what they complain about, it was never that, oh, he bombed Syria or he did this or that. It was that, oh, well, he pushed this guy out of the way. And he says these things. He got McDonald's at the White House or with Burger King. That's the problem. It's I guess he should have steaks and adrenochrome. I don't know. Like, that's the issue. That's the way I've been described it. Like the deep state doesn't like him, mainly because of his presentation, not because of his position.
Or
he definitely.
They need somebody to come in and be the rude strongman, like John Ponte's article says. I think that's more accurate.
Yeah, if his presentation, wouldn't they have disliked George W. Bush? Like, because he was also a national embarrassment, and yet he was about as establishment as it got. He was also a puppet, as is Biden. I mean, they're all puppets, but...
So, and actually, real quick, we've got some comments in chat. First off, what about some KFC in the White House? I want to remind everybody that if I can get 200 Twitch subscribers, I will eat the biggest bucket available of KFC live on stream.
You know, KFC is disappointing. I always think it looks really good, and then I have it, and it's like just salty and bland.
So what you need to do is you need to get extra crispy. If you don't already.
Then it's just burnt. It's just like hard and burnt.
I don't think it's
But
burnt.
RFK wouldn't like that. That's another appointment. RFK
Yeah, but
has to see what you're eating.
I don't
Get it
care.
while you can. Get it while you can, people.
But so real quick, let me F tier fast for. I mean, yeah, I mean it's not my favorite, but I sort of do things occasionally to piss people off, and I think it'd be funny to piss people off by eating a bunch of KFC on stream. And, like, you know, it'd piss off the health people, it'd piss off the people who didn't want me to get 200, and it'd also piss off all the people who who don't believe. Well, I mean, yeah, but I don't care about that part. Who don't like me and don't want to have seen me succeed. I could literally eat in their face. But yeah, let me. And also, I've never been to Popeyes. I should probably fix that now that I'm in a city with one. We're getting the hate chatters, so there'll be stuff. First off, we've got from the same person who brought up KFC. We've got Diddy is in the chat. I don't know what you mean by that, but we are all anti-Diddy here. This is anti-Diddy action. Can't wait for the deportations. You're going to have to. I'm so sorry. You're going to have to wait to come. You're going to get orgasm denial for like months. I voted for Trump. Okay, cool. I shat earlier today. I'm glad we're updating each other. So, Tarantulas, who's much more constructive, says, take a page out of the Orange Man's book, get some social media zazz, like real genuine sass goes a long way in the public domain. Yeah, I try to. I don't know if you follow me on Twitter, but you might appreciate the presence now that you're a subscriber over here. Insanity is free if you're interested in following me, and any of these other people can also plug their Twitters while I look for another comment to read. Yeah, anyone want to plug their Twitter real quick?
I'm gonna do it at the end.
To use Twitter.
Gotcha. Well,
I guess I'll plug
at
Liberty Centuries. That's our Twitter account at Liberty Centuries.
Yeah. And then I think Kareem
Find me on Facebook though, if you know where to look.
Yeah, and I think Kareem is Kareem6633 on Twitter. He also says, I loved Bernie Sanders. He should have had a legit ticket for the presidency instead of getting shafted. Yeah, and they should have run a fucking primary. And it's like evidently stupid to so many Democrats that they didn't do it now. And to me, that it just adds more fuel to my fire that they're all on the same team. Because, like, Kamala, she was the last pick at the fucking presidential elections. And running her in this regard is not a good fucking choice if you want people on your side. So she had a lackluster performance before the presidency. Then she was a lackluster vice president. And she was basically a cunt the whole time. And then you look at her history and she's top cop Kamala. She is, she's anti-immigration. She's, fucking, like, she enslaved black people. She covered up sex crimes in the Catholic Church. She's not a good choice. But they went with her because she was more approachable than Biden. And yes, a rock wrapped around an AIDS condom that's like, attached to a rancid slice of bacon is probably more approachable than Biden.
Well,
and the value's coherent too, if you asked it a question.
Yeah, and like it'll just slough off the thing.
They were really scraping the bottom of the barrel. Like, so I don't still fully agree that they're on the same team. I mean, yeah, for the most part, yes, but they will still rig their primary against certain people when they feel the need for it. Like, for example, had Bernie in 2016 been the nominee, like, I'm sure if he'd been elected, he would have completely cucked on everything. He would have gone along with all the new wars they wanted to start, like all their monetary policies, all their corporate bailouts. However, they did not, like, somebody did not want him in power because he wasn't quite enough of a Wall Street-backed war criminal for them. So they rigged their primary in favor of Clinton.
Same thing with Ron Paul too. Ron Paul, although Ron Paul I think would have done really well, but still, like Ron Paul was
they
way too
completely
far
rigged
out of
primaries
scope.
against him.
even Bernie was too far out of scope, and he's a social democrat. He agrees with all
Yeah.
that. I think someone like you put Ro Khanna up, they're like, no, we can't have Ro Khanna. He might disagree with he's like, I don't know if we should bomb people in Yemen. I just don't think that's a good idea. Like, what? So it seems to me, as long as you're cool with two things, war and central banking, you're in. Like the other stuff, okay, we can discuss, if what you think about this wedge issue. Oh, should people smoke weed? I don't know. Should they made a big deal about like bathrooms and this stuff. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like,
Well, also,
that's never been a thing.
they'll make certain things that help compliance rebel issues. Like, I'm not anti-weed, just prefacing this, but it does have a tendency to lower your inhibitions and simultaneously your drive. It has a tendency to reduce your overall ambition. And so if they can make weed a rebel issue and make it seem like you're a rebel if you smoke weed, then all the rebels will start smoking weed and they'll be like stoned. They won't want to do anything, and they'll have like a whole
They'll
lot.
spend money on snacks. They'll spend tons of money on snacks. They'll sit there watching SpongeBob reruns, not doing anything.
Yeah, and
Well,
then they'll push all their campaign energy behind whichever candidate happens to like give them like the weed, and it won't matter like what their other policy prescriptions are, as long as these people can get what they want. I've seen it so many times, like, oh, these people will legalize weed, so that's who I'm going with. It's like, you don't care about any of their other positions, and they're like, kind of no. And like, that's true of so many fucking people. So I think that the weed issue, while I do oppose the war on drugs entirely, is one of the ways that that's useful to the elites is they can use it as a wedge issue for rebels, to say, if you're a rebel, you'll smoke weed. It's like the Torches of Freedom, Edward Bernays thing. It's just a different thing to smoke. And it'll make it has the added benefit of like reducing your overall cognition and capabilities most of the time. Like, some people, they need it to function, and like, I'm not saying that it's completely medically useless for those people. Like, if you got Parkinson's and you light up and you can suddenly not cogwheel, go for it, absolutely. But like, for a lot of people, for I would say most people, it at least has some sort of inhibitive effect.
I think, okay, but my thing is, when I saw the campaigns were winding down, marijuana legalization is something they always throw. They're like, this candidate will, it's just like, oh, Kamala will, So that's why I say it's a wedge issue, because people throw it in to be like, no. I still like war and central banking, but you can light up. Or I still like war and central banking, but here's my position on I think, like, people were talking to me about, should people in jail be able to get a transgender surgery with tax dollars? I'm like, that's so far removed from, like, I don't even have an opinion on that. I'm like, I don't know.
Also,
like,
Trump literally made that happen when he was in office. He was, I think he was the first president to have done that, like, authorize that sort of thing to happen in prisons. Like, it happened, I think, first under his watch.
Well,
People completely drop the ball on that. The correct answer is it should be a non-issue because, one, we should not have mass incarceration for victimless crimes, and two, the state should not be involved in people's medical decisions.
Correct, yeah, and that's what I kind of
I mean, I guess there will be those edge cases where, like, if, someone's in prison for, like, murder, like, I don't know, but...
Yeah, why would you give them? And
it's a question in regards to historically, because I've been reading a bit more of a book that Keith Thompson recommended in regards to anarchist. Not Keith Thompson. I'm sorry, Keith Preston. I'm getting my Keiths confused.
At least you didn't say Keith Pwetz, because that would have just been insulting.
Yeah, Keith Preston. He recommended Peter Marshall's Demanding the Impossible. I've been reading that, and there was a section in regards to how Marshall compares the New Left and the counterculture, where the counterculture is trying to sort of be kind of rebellious in regards to, stuff like drug use, stuff like, growing your hair out, stuff like all stuff like, nudity, it didn't pose as much of a political opposition to the state apparatus as the New Left did. And as we came about from that era of the New Left and counterculture, we have these more mainstream parties accepting these kind of cultural issues as a type of pacification almost. And while they are important issues to make, we have to be careful that the populace isn't pacified by these in order to stop going forward.
Right.
And that includes even with the use of, certain substances, because you can have a revolution that still allows dancing. You can have a revolution
Yes.
that still allows you to light it up. But you have to be careful to, I guess, be a bit responsible in how you light it up, making sure that if you're going to do your revolution, you got to balance it out so that you have that active opposition to the state apparatus, as well as, creating a better culture in regards to, a more free culture, a more accepting culture for people in general.
Absolutely.
So we have two different things where the state is creating pacification through maybe these wedge issues, as well as manufacturing discontent and divide through these wedge issues. But I think I will have to say, I think we should move back on to talking about the cabinet picks.
And so I want to get John Stokes involved in the discussion here. So John,
I was about to say, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have a specific one you want to go over?
I'm interested in RFK as kind of a fake populist bone being tossed to the MAGA group.
Yeah. You want to go?
Our libertarian cabinet appointment.
Yeah, right.
Oh, right. We got his $25 and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
As of this spring, he's a libertarian.
But I mean, yeah, that just kind of stands out to me. Trump has always been a showman, and I think RFK is kind of his big center ring. Oh my gosh, look, I'm putting this anti-vax, anti-Red 40 guy. I'm such a rebel. Look at me.
Yeah.
Democrat too. Democrat.
Yes.
He might not be registered any longer, but Democrat.
He's a gun grabber, but so is Trump. He's a corrupt like toady for the establishment, but so is Trump. So.
Right. He's had like a couple okay takes, such as on COVID, but yeah, I mean, what they say about broken clocks. Like he's, all in all, he's not our ally, and yeah, his ideas could backfire spectacularly. Like, okay, he wants toxic ingredients out of our food supply, but how does he want to go about that? By fixing things like subsidies and the whole fiat food system? No, he just wants more regulation.
Exactly. And by the way, like, John, if you want to really drill down on RFK, you can compile some notes. We'll be going over RFK next Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on this channel here. Like, share, subscribe. Because we did a whole bunch against RFK Jr. on a stream like a bit ago, but we didn't we didn't fully cover the issues, and we've got a whole lot more to cover because he's just like this incredibly like complicated, corrupt mass of worms. Can of worms, and he's like, so we've got a whole lot to say on that subject. There's going to be a lot. So folks can tune in then, and you're welcome to that panel should you so choose, and we'll really drill down on RFK Jr. because there's just so much, so much that we didn't get to last time that we could get to on another. So we'll be doing another devoted stream to him. How about Marco Rubio?
He's just basically a neocon. Like, I find it interesting. And to me, this is how the establishment works. They're like, don't put Nikki Haley or Mike Pompeo in. He's like, gotcha. Okay, who else do we got? We got Marco Rubio, who's a neocon. Pete Hegseth is close to it, although he's like, these wars are useless, but he seems to be like, I don't know exactly where you throw the neocon ball it's kind of like anarchy, like how close are we, like is Iran anarchy because it's close. Pete Hegseth sounds to me a lot like a neocon, but then he's like, okay, these wars are not that great. So people in the Mises chat in Pennsylvania were saying, well, he's not exactly that. But when people say I want to make the military lethal, it's okay. What do you want to use a lethal military for? Just peacekeeping? Like when
Yeah.
Ron Paul says it, I agree. Ron Paul actually believes he wants to use the military just for defense. So Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, Pam Bondi is literally in a picture with Lindsey Graham, thumbs up. I'm not even going to say like Matt Gaetz is some superhero of anti-establishment like everybody else, but I guess he just wasn't, I guess, a little too rocking the boat. So this is not a Matt Gaetz endorsement. I'm not like saying, he did anything good. As far as I'm concerned, he probably has one allegation against him that, I wouldn't associate with a guy with. That being said, it seems, and people are like, well, Kareem, it's part of the plan. But I think from what I can tell, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, and Marco Rubio are all neocons that are just kind of more hip neocons. And I think JD Vance is kind of a neocon, but he doesn't exactly come out and say it. He's kind of like, I guess.
If I could interject, I guess I think like a good comparison you can make is it a soft neocon or a hard neocon?
I think people are a lot of soft neocons. Like, hey man, I'm America first. I have the flag here. I think we should be America first. But I know I'm America first, but I think Israel should do more land grabs. I think we should get involved in Ukraine just a little bit, but not as much. Oh, I think we should have a lethal military. And of course, I expect the next 4 years to be China. We got to get China.
And Mexico.
How do we fight China?
And Mexico.
Yeah, China and Mexico. If we can fight China and Mexico, we'll be all right. And that's the thing that kills me is all these people who are supposedly America first. I literally think what happened is George Bush started to lose. All of George Bush's failures became very unpopular. The neocons became unpopular, like Mike Pompeo. So they said, man, we need a branding change. We still want to get checks from Raytheon and be imperialist, but now we're America first. Come on, guys. I have a flag. I have a flag bumper sticker. I support the troops. Red, white, and blue and all this stuff. I listen to country music. Woo! And then, and another one is Ron DeSantis. Although he's not part of the administration, I feel Ron DeSantis just fits in this perfectly, where you get a bunch of people who literally just say, hey, I'm against the establishment. I'm for America, but they have neocon agenda. And Nikki Haley and Mike Pompeo were, but people knew about that. Nikki Haley probably said, he actually said he'd consider putting Nikki Haley somewhere. So I wouldn't say she's completely gone. I don't think he'll bring Pompeo back, but that doesn't really matter because he stacked the deck. I did a bunch of his appointments, but he stacked the deck with neocons and he stacked the deck with COVID regime people. He didn't really do anything different other than I think he said, hey, Vivek and Elon are going to give some advice to agencies who are spending too much, but I don't think they have any institutional power. So it's kind of like giving you a controller that doesn't work when you want your cousin to play with you, and it's your cousin you don't like. So that's my quick analysis of his thing. The only person I really like is Thomas Massey for agriculture.
Well,
really
but he's not in yet. So
that did not happen. And
yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
Someone already was appointed as head of agriculture. Let me double check, actually.
Yeah, and it's not Massey. Libertarians were really holding out hope that would happen.
Because that would have been the legit libertarian. I think if I had to say, is there Like,
yeah, Brooke Rollins, who was the former White House aide, probably to Trump, was selected as the Secretary of Agriculture.
So, real quick, let's get back because of that onto the actual cabinet. And so, anybody have anything else to say about Marco Rubio specifically? Because we got to drill down on all of these.
Is there really much to say about Marco Rubio? Like at least his like whatchamacallit, his record is pretty clear about that. And from a libertarian perspective, like nobody wanted him or liked him anyway, and there was no actual arguments for having like defending the choice of Marco Rubio really, and there really isn't because again he has already shown through his record a neocon, like being neoconservative and being mainly a kind of war hawk. So it's not exactly what exactly is there more to add to it, especially when the libertarians were promised that Donald Trump wouldn't be a president with a neocon cabinet like the Biden administration was.
Yeah, they always get in. Well, I'll say this. Well, I will say one thing about Rubio. From what I remember on Rubio, he was very big on the quote-unquote Syrian rebels who have now taken over. He was like, okay, we got to get rid of Assad and stuff. Now, I've talked to people on both sides, and I'm not going to be like, oh, okay, I think it's one way. I'm not tanky to say Assad was great. Oh, and because I think he did commit war crimes. So I'll say that. That being said, Marco Rubio and other neocons who pushed for the quote-unquote rebels, I think have created another sort of Libya or another sort of base that it'll be just like Dave Smith says, if you want to know who our enemies will be, look at who we're funding right now. So Marco Rubio, I think, set the stage for a potential another Libya or a potential another adversary. Because what's going to happen, in my opinion, is these people who took over were playing ball because they were getting a little bit of money from intelligence departments and they were getting support from people in Congress like Rubio and neocons. And now in Syria, they're going to use that as a basis for launching attacks that might help them in the short term. Then they'll probably turn on them in the long term. They're like, how could they turn against us? We funded them and did everything. I'm like, hey, do you remember Operation
They know it will happen.
So Rubio was one of the architects of creating the potential disaster that happened. And this is not to say that, like, I think I'm giving Assad some kind of an award, because I'm not. Because there's not really a world leader that I like, except, maybe Rick Fagbina or like Vid of Liberland.
So Kareem, you're basically saying that there's not an intervention that Rubio doesn't like.
Yeah, Rubio to me is like a soft John McCain. Like John McCain was overt with it. And Rubio likes all the, regime change, and we got to get rid of Assad. We got to get Putin. We got to bomb here. We got to bomb there. We got to, give aid to Israel, all that type of stuff. Rubio is exactly that guy.
Well,
he just plays off like he's not. And I don't see any difference between him and Lindsey Graham and John McCain.
Yeah, he wants he's a border hawk. He hates gay marriage. He wants to slash taxes for the rich, but he wants to compound them for the poor by doing tariffs because he's a big trade hawk. He doesn't like the idea of normalizing relations with Cuba. He opposed Syrian refugees. He supported no-fly zones in Syria. He supports FISA and NSA mass surveillance. He liked the TPP. Fucking he fucking puts emphasis on opposing any sort of legalization of any drug, including marijuana. So y'all in the chat who objected to my statements earlier, you should oppose Marco Rubio.
Neocons are kind of slippery when it comes to the social issues, because they are first and foremost interventionists. So they'll adopt whatever social issues they have to get support from the base that will be sympathetic to their desire to start conflicts
Yes.
abroad, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And I
like
think a
a
lot
lot
of
of them, like they used to be all about the sanctity of marriage when that was popular. They kind of have backed off on that, I've noticed. But another thing that I was going to say about like Assad, yeah, always be very skeptical when the US suddenly starts talking about human rights violations in foreign countries. Like, oh, Assad gassed his own people. Okay. The US will happily back foreign regimes that commit horrific human rights violations, and we will not hear about them in the news. So, yeah, clearly the US does not care about human rights violations. So if they're going to start talking about them, it's because they're trying to drum up public support for a war. So it's not to say that it didn't happen, though in the case of the gas attacks, there's evidence that it probably did not. But yeah, they tend to exaggerate when they want to overthrow a foreign regime, not because they're doing anything particularly bad or anything worse than a regime that the US supports would do, but because the US wants to replace them because for one reason or another, that foreign regime does not support US interests. Like in this case, it's because there's an oil pipeline that they want to build that happens to go through that region of the world.
Yes, and Trump appointed a lot of people, in my opinion, who had said, I hate this guy, I'm a never Trumper, he sucks, because they thought he was an actual outsider. So it's funny to me. If Jeremy came and said, like, Kareem, you're not a real anarchist, all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And I was like chair of the Libertarian Party, I wouldn't, like, appoint him for anything. Like, if I was chair of the and to me, it's kind of funny that he does stuff like that. Like, half of his picks are people who said he sucks. Even J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is like, he's horrible, he's rude to women, he's a misogynist, he's a terrible person. And I'm like, dude, you're a billionaire. I get it, you're 70. Pull up your phone and see what people have said about you, not what the CNN. You'll find that they don't like you. And you're like appointing them to work with. It's literally like someone saying, like, you're a piece of shit. And they're like, can I work with you? I just called you a piece of shit. Or I go in bread server and I'm like, I hate, gays or whatever in this. I think they should all be killed. Can I be in an anarchist server? Like, I would be out there so fast. But Trump's apparently cool with this. Like, as long
it literally is representative of the fact that Trump is, whatever the deep state is, Trump is a supporter of it.
Yes.
Because you're just putting in these establishment people, those same people that quote unquote are part of that deep state. I mean, it's a huge grift.
Yes. And that's the point I was making in the beginning, is like, he's not genuinely anti-establishment, and anyone can tell that, and the establishment isn't anti-him, because they know they're going to get some of their stuff pushed through, and they don't have to worry about civility when he's in charge. That's it. Additionally, so...
That's Marco Rubio.
Yeah, well, so Marco Rubio, we've pretty much, like, drilled it into the ground. He's a massive war hawk. He's a hawk on the Middle East. He's an Israel shill.
Yep.
He's like a massive supporter of any sort of regime change that NATO wants to accomplish. It's one of those things. He's an anti-LGBT fucker. He's like your standard boilerplate, like I guess milquetoast Republican neocon warhawk kind of thing. And he's not doing anything different. This is how the establishment has been operating for decades. So he's the same thing, and Trump is filling the swamp with swamp creatures, not draining it. So, yeah. I think that's a good place to end this. Let's do the next one. We've got Pete Hegseth.
I remember the media making a big deal of the fact that he apparently said that women shouldn't be in active combat, which, okay. If there's going to be a draft, I'd rather have someone who didn't want my teenage daughter drafted than someone who did. So I'll take it. But that's pretty much all I know about him.
He seems to be like neocon light again, like Rubio.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of these people have got the like I'm America first. So he's talked about like all these wars are a waste and stuff like that, but then he's a massive Zionist. He wants to get involved in everything else. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants to, expand the war in the Middle East, and also he definitely is probably a China hawk as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, we got to go to war with China. We got to fight China. And that's a problem with these people. They can't just be okay with having a strong military, even though I don't trust them with that. They can't just be okay with defense, actual defense. They always have to be involved in something else. I suspect that he's going to be kind of like that guy that's, big China hawk, big Israel hawk, big Iran hawk. Maybe not so much Ukraine, but still, it's kind of they're shifting gears. They're still not. I don't see him as an anti-interventionist. I see him as just a little bit less than your average neocon. Also, he says he wants to make it a Christian warrior thing. I'm like, how does that even work? The military is every religion you can think of.
Well, I mean, the fact that he is been put forth for a department of for the Defense Department is ironic, considering that as a commentator, he has frequently and repeatedly spoken in favor of interventionism. And I am not sure that if there was a point where he decided he was wrong for years and he's seen the error of his ways, I'm not sure, number one, when that was and if I believe him.
Yeah,
I don't believe
Very much, it's a sort of thing where if he is, like, whatever stuff he might be against in regards to intervention, such as regarding U.S. aid to Ukraine, it very much pales in comparison to what he has supported in regards to foreign intervention. As Jamie said, in regards to Iran, for instance, there was his support of, like the killing of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani under Trump. And at least according to this one article, he apparently called for further attacks and further bombing in Iran, specifically including cultural sites in Iran. So not necessarily like areas of actual conflict, but possibly civilian areas, which hold important cultural importance in the region. We have his hawkish statements in regards to China. We have his very hardline Zionism. It's just overall, he sort of cares more in regards to making America seem as strong, which follows the whole RNC platform in regards to trying to advocate peace through strength, rather than really wanting actual non-intervention, wanting actual peace, wanting the United States to not be in so many conflicts. Let's see, there's in his book, which I think Kareem was mentioning in regards to how he wanted, talking about like sort of the Christian aspect in regards to military. He apparently argued for the U.S. to ignore the Geneva Conventions. So when you have this kind of person who does not care for what amounts to the rules of war, who does not care really for limiting government intervention as long as it's not, as long as it's against the people he doesn't like or in support of the people he does like, whether it's against Iran or for Israel. He is at best a soft neocon, at worst a pretty hard neocon and a pretty militaristic personality.
And we're talking about
that would rather
Hegseth?
see greater war than actual peace.
And we're talking about
ensue.
Hegseth or Trump?
Hegseth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could also apply to Trump, but Hegseth is a bit more direct in regards to it.
Yeah, and Hegseth has a shit like start too, because he was a Gitmo like officer. He was like running a significant amount of Gitmo, and then after that, he like when he was like a supporter of Trump, he like encouraged the pardoning of war criminals. So it's like, this is the guy that you're putting in to drain the swamp, the guy who encouraged you to keep the swamp nice and full of creatures who weren't in jail. Good, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, this is the kind of stock of person we're dealing with here. It's like, they're not actually interested in solving issues. They're interested in gaining power while complaining about certain issues from a very decidedly biased lens.
The issue is not necessarily that it's biased. The issue is more that it's opportunistic, I would say. The focus is not actually on certain principles that would align with either libertarianism or with ensuring the greater flourishing and freedom of the American people, and even for people.
One moment. Hey, Jamie, is there anything you want to say about the cabinet before you got to jump off?
Just more of the same.
Gotcha. Well, I have a feeling, because there's so many people in the cabinet, and I don't think at this particular rate we're going to complete it tonight. So we'll probably do a multi-part series, to be honest. I'll let you know when the next one is going to be, but it's probably going to be next Sunday.
Okay.
But we'll keep going.
Good.
We'll keep going for a bit, though. But be well. Thank you for showing up, and good luck with your new free time, not being a part of that lawsuit bullshit.
Good night.
Night, everyone. Thanks.
Either way, we'll be going for a bit longer. So what were you saying, John?
The whole thing in regards to Trump's cabinet is very much not really based on any actual principles in regards to ensuring the freedom of the American populace or in ensuring the greater flourishing of the American populace, but more to accept either certain ideological dogmas or just to do what's best to gain power. We have, with Trump's cabinet appointments, a lot of people who are either very supportive of Trump or who were already part of his staff during his previous presidential term. It's very much not really anything in regards to trying to create greater freedom. It's more so trying to go against whatever enemies they believe they have and to further the positions and goals that they personally believe dissent be damned. And so overall, as we continue, we're probably not going to get too much better in regards to positions. Maybe we'll have it where they have not as important a role in regards to it, or even some of the positions that they publicly advocate for at least may agree with certain libertarian ideas. However, overall, the point is that the Trump presidency is definitely not a libertarian one, and I don't think with how the cabinet has been created, with the specific policies that Trump and the Republican National Committee agreed to when creating the platform, any of that is probably not going to be anything that libertarians are really going to be able to influence Trump on, I would say,
So
to push him towards a more libertarian position
real
at all.
real quick, we've got some new people in chat. Mark appears to have also taken the dumb pills and believe that if we don't like Trump, we have to support Kamala. So I would advise you to go look at the earlier parts of the show, maybe some other content on this channel. We are all anti.
Can we fuck with them, please? Like, can we make them short circuit by if we sit here shitting on Kamala for a few minutes? It's fun.
I mean, I guess we can go. Let's briefly take an aside. We'll Kamala punching bag for a bit.
I mean, that bitch kept people in prison to use as slave labor for years past the point where they were supposed to be released, just so they could use them as free labor for fighting forest fires. She probably had done drugs herself, but she was a big advocate for the war on drugs because it was a convenient excuse for locking people up. Also, she's just, her personality is just, ugh, God, like, there's just nothing appealing about her whatsoever.
So, I guess Mark is trying to say, he's pointing out that celebs should not be trusted with the election, which I don't know.
Wait, who shouldn't?
Celebrities? I don't know where we were saying celebrities should be, but definitely not.
He's saying that, like, we shouldn't care what some stupid fucking, like, actor or pop singer, like, who they endorse, because I would tend to agree. I don't think most people actually care that much anymore.
Also, like, none of us said anything different, so I don't know. It's like,
really, you don't base your voting choices on who Taylor Swift votes for?
No. Also, I'm not a big Swift fan. Like, if I'm gonna go with any sort of celebrity, that's like a big name woman. Like, just on the artistic merit alone, I'd probably go Lady Gaga, but even she supported Kamala, so I disagree with her on that. But she was supporting Kamala on more of like a harm reduction level. She didn't even have a good reason to say it. She just said some blind, stupid platitude about women or something. And it's like, yeah, sure. I mean, fine. Maybe she's better for women on some issues, but like, that's not good enough for me because like there are women who are dying in Israel, and she didn't like she was actively kicking out Palestine supporters or in Palestine because of Israel. So I don't care. Like, he's saying it's because I just read Jay-Z is now going to trial for essay on a 13-year-old. I mean, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. None of us are on board with that stuff, just to be clear. So, yeah, and also Kamala locked up the parents of truant kids, breaking up their families and making their truancy even worse so that she could keep doing it and putting these kids in government care. So she helped break up families in California, and then when those kids were part of systems that were like less controllable, there was like a bunch of like sexual assault in the Catholic Church against minors, and she helped cover that up because she wanted her district to look good. So she had the file, she had all the information, and she just let it rot. And this is a matter of public record. So fuck that bitch.
Several years ago, or 4 years ago, when Biden was first inaugurated, like I had this post on my Facebook page shitting on him, and I had it set to public. So then every time I pissed someone off on Facebook, which is pretty frequently because I can't resist shit talking sometimes, like they would come to my profile and they'd see that post, and then they'd try to piss me off by talking shit about Trump, and then they'd get so confused, and I agree with them. I'm like, yeah, Trump belongs in prison for war crimes too. I'm glad you agree with me.
Yeah, blood soaked.
Like, wait, what? You were supposed to get mad about this.
Also, hello Starfield. If this is your first time on one of these streams, feel free to subscribe. You know me from elsewhere, so good seeing you here. I think if you're the same Starfield. Not a fan that Kamala was a presidential candidate installed by imperial edict. Also, hello Mark, thank you for the sub. Yeah, I want this channel. See, the thing about this channel is I might be a fucking asshole about a variety of things, and I did title this stream like a cunt, but that's because I have a capacity to be a cunt about certain things, and because you all wouldn't be here if I hadn't have done that. Let's be real. The algorithm would not have served this into your inbox, so it's working. And y'all can feel free to subscribe if you want actual good content that, like, people are going to have complex and nuanced discussions, because that's what this place is for. So
I can confirm he's a cunt.
yes, I'm the biggest cunt. I should run for LNC chair. You need to be a certain level of cunt in order to be there.
Right. I mean, the plan is that then I'll run for vice chair because we'll get absolutely nothing done because we'll always be fighting over stupid shit.
Yeah, we'll have like a volume meter somewhere in the middle where like the sooner like we'll raise our volume little by little with every donation. That'll be how we fundraise. So to get back to the general subject, because we could go like we should after a certain amount of these streams where we piss off conservatives by like having the titles like this and shit like that, we should have a stream where we do nothing but dunk on Democrats, just like a 6-hour dunk on Democratathon. How about this? Actually, we will do that stream once
Biden's last day in office.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll just be like, "Bye, Biden. This is your funeral stream."
I feel like no one even seems to like remember that he's still technically president right now. Like he just kind of disappeared completely off the national stage after the election. Well, after he dropped out of the race, and like they're just kind of like pretending he doesn't exist and hoping people won't notice that he's still president.
Of like stuff to Ukraine, of course.
Yeah.
That got into the news recently.
Well, I don't think everyone knows he's not actually running the country, though. So, I mean, the question, of course, is who. But they're just kind of trying to hope that no one thinks about it and no one asks the question of who is actually running the country right now.
Yeah, well, and also, like, you know, it's one of the fun things is that people basically forgot he existed until he pardoned his son. And then they're like, wait, he can still do that? Fuck! And then he did that because he's a corrupt piece of shit. And he had a really specific pardon that I think is potentially even legally challengeable, because he said that any crimes he committed for the past 11 years and any crimes he could have committed for the past 11 years. And it's like, I don't think you can fucking do that. And
Can you pardon people of all future crimes?
Yeah, right? It sucks.
Can you? Like,
I don't think you can.
Okay.
And like the other half of it is that like, go fuck yourself, Biden. Now, and Jon Stewart did a really good video on this because he's like, you know, oh, now that Trump is in and he's putting away all the pretense of keeping his promises and he's doing all this corrupt bullshit, we have the chance to have the moral high ground. And then he immediately smash cuts to the news coverage of Biden pardoning Hunter, and he's like, fuck! It's fucking great.
Oh, man.
People should watch Jon Stewart.
I actually respected Jon Stewart too. Like
he's
still better than a lot of the commentators now. But
no, he's still good. He was
Yeah.
he was mocking those people for thinking they had the upper hand.
Yeah.
Like he's been pretty firmly against the Democrats for a significant period of time. He's not been one of those people who's just been like, I'm gonna ride that Biden cock just for money.
Well, I just remember being annoyed that like I can't remember whose show he was on, but like he was joking about how there was a research facility in the city where COVID was first discovered that happened to be studying coronaviruses.
Yeah.
And he's like, drawing attention to how suspicious that was. And I'm like, you fucking idiot. This would have been actually, you know, controversial 6 months ago, but it's perfectly safe to say it now. Okay, people were being like banned from social media 6 months ago for saying that COVID may have been a lab leak.
To be fair,
like they were being branded as crazy conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, and I was one of those people too. Like,
well, I wondered. I'm like, because the fact that like everyone was acting like this wasn't a big deal. We're like, okay, there's just a virus going around. And then all of a sudden, like, everyone collectively panicked and started locking shit down. Like, did they find out something? Like, could this be, like, a genetically modified virus that was accidentally released, and that's why everyone's freaking out because there's a potential bioweapon or something on the loose.
Yeah, like they know how bad it
I
is.
had that thought,
And-
and then yeah, like there were a few people who were saying this does not look natural. Like it has certain features that indicate it was likely artificially manipulated.
Yeah, well,
again, everyone was being branded just a crazy conspiracy theorist.
and of course, I just follow the money and ask cui bono, and I also understand oro ab ko, and so basically, like with both of those concepts, I saw ID 2020. I saw a bunch of other things. I saw the kinds of things that ID 2020 was connected to, like vaccine alliances and shit, and I was like, I know what they're doing. They're going to usher in the surveillance state, and they're going to use the virus as a pretext for contact-free payments. And it's like, it was very clearly evident to me, like in January of 2020, and I was being insulted by basically everybody for saying that. So yeah, I mean, like that all.
And like the COVID passports are going to quickly be expanded to like just general passports, like where, yeah, they're going to quickly decide, oh, also, if you're on a terrorist watch list, you'll be denied entry into various businesses and federal buildings and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Yeah, and so, but like, just to be fair to Jon Stewart, here's the thing. I think that the fact that he was willing to say that to Colbert on his show, where most people are getting like weird choreographed dances about vaccines being awesome, it'd be like going on Jimmy Kimmel or one of the Jimmys, you know, like, or you know, James Colbert, you know, or something like that. Like fucking Colbert is one of those people who's like part of that general establishment, and so I like applaud the fact that Jon Stewart was willing to say that, and I think he probably believed it before, at least on some level. And
probably,
and yeah. I also like the way he said it, because he said it the way a comedian would say it, and that hit the people a lot harder than, you know, just coming out with like, you know, I think it was this. He said like something to the effect of, you know, if I hear about an outbreak of chocolatey goodness in Pennsylvania, it's probably from the Hershey's factory. It's great. I like that. So
yeah, no, I have more respect for him than I do for Colbert.
Yeah.
It's too bad because I used to really like Colbert, but yeah, he's such a fucking mindless establishment shill.
Yeah. But so, just to get back on the Hegseth course, he said in this Wikipedia article, it lists the things that he's opposed to. Quote, globalism, socialism, secularism, environmentalism, Islamism, genderism, and leftism. He also, he supports the border wall. He wants to raise tariffs. He wants to force people to learn English. He's, like, very much, he opposes same-sex marriage because he thinks it's going to lead to incest, polygamy, pedophilia, child marriage, bestiality, and zoophilia. He's just one of these, like olds. And he's very much of the old, like, persuasion. And, like, I think his entire shit there, is, like, directly counter to anything that would make America great. But it's not directly counter to the idea that America was once great and that we need to make it great again. You know, which is why he's like, you know, he's not opposed to the military, what it's been doing overseas. He's not opposed to, like, the torture because he helped with the torture in the Guantanamo Bay position. He's not opposed to, like, any of the illegal shit. He's not opposed to the swamp. He wants to reduce DEI in the military. That's his goal. You know, it sucks. He sucks. So, I have to nail that down because we are talking about cabinet. We're gonna have to go for like a fucking 5-part series to get through all of these. But
oh god, another one of those.
Yeah, right.
Please don't let it be another Project 2025 or something series.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how like restrained.
How many episodes did that take us? Like 6?
Something like that. We'll see. We'll see if we can keep it more like restrained. But we do. The next one we'll definitely have to like maintain more of a discussion of like cabinet picks. Also, I don't know where Kareem is. So as the rule goes, if your camera is off, you're jacking off under the table. We all need to point that out. So, Scott Bessent, is a former money manager for George Soros. So I feel like if you're like trying to say that you oppose the swamp from a Republican level, that maybe don't go with Soros people. But I mean, as with Vivek, they clearly don't care about people connected to Soros. So, um, anybody got anything on Bessent? I just thought I'd throw that out there because I'm a fucking cunt. So,
Oh God, yeah. I wish I don't know enough about this one.
Well, again, it's blatant nepotism because Dissent used to what that. I'm sorry. It's again an example of nepotism on Trump's part because one, Dissent was apparently a fundraiser and donor for Trump, and two, he was his economic advisor for this presidential campaign. So you have a bit of it's basically a bit of nepotism there, the good old nepotism. Besides that, he seems to generally be kind of, eh. He's just a general hedge fund. He's a hedge fund manager. He worked at the Soros Foundation. There's nothing really controversial about him. Basically, he seems more. How should we say this? He will support whoever. It seems he'll support whoever he thinks is the right one, and he's not afraid to flip flop in regards to that. He supported Barack Obama, he's supported Al Gore, he supported Hillary Clinton, and then he supported Trump. If there's anything really to say about that, it just seems like economic wise he just aligns with what Trump's already done. So he's fine with the tariffs, he's fine. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have really too much to say about it because there isn't much to really say about Bessent besides he's in support of Trump's economic policies in regards to tariffs and the like, which we already went over that that they wouldn't be good for the American people. And, having someone who would be in charge of the Treasury and advise on that in regards to that he would be supporting tariffs doesn't really sound too good in regards to how the U.S. government will be directing its power in regards to the economy, possibly to the extent of more protectionism, which will lead to more intervention in the economy in those matters.
Anybody got anything on Bessent? Okay. Well, I guess I'll just go and say that Key Square Group's like investments worked directly with Soros, and like they were part of. And just to be clear, Soros isn't the ultimate bad guy, but I definitely don't like massively well-connected statist multi-billionaires. Because I believe that those people are part of the financial reason that things are this way. So, like, he worked with, like, George Soros and Stan Druckenmiller, and fucking, like, that's the way he made a significant amount of money, is by doing weird money manipulation schemes, and then he, like, used that to found Key Square Group. And, like, fucking Yale is corrupt as hell. It's literally the home of the Skull and Bones Society, and like if that's not evidence at some point that he's like involved in some sort of corruption, I don't know what would be. But then he was part of the Soros Fund Management (SFM) in the 90s, And so, like, when you do that, you learn how to help the wealthy distribute their money. You learn how to be like a middleman for their corruption. And so I can't see him as anything other than a swamp creature. And like, if we're dealing with somebody like that, why did Trump have him involved if Trump's whole purpose was to get rid of those sorts of people? And is part of the reason because he's stacking the cabinet with enough people like Hegseth, that the fact that like Besant is LGBT, he's the gay part of that, means that he will be more like threatened and more coercible. Did Trump get somebody to be involved that he could like maybe put a leash on tighter? I don't know. But what I do know is that it wouldn't surprise me if that was the case, because having a swamp creature in your like your cabinet seems to me to be a poor choice if what you're trying to do is drain that swamp. So
Yeah, not really much else to say in regards. It's a thing where Dissent is sort of, he appears as just sort of a moderate pick. He doesn't really have any specific political allegiance to the right or to the left as the previous cabinet picks have been. The main thing that we can like talk about is in regards to his policy on tariffs, because everything else is sort of more, there's nothing really to complain too much about. He's a hedge fund manager who has participated in philanthropy. There's not really much you can say in regards to that that hasn't already been said a while ago. And in regards to,
hey, real quick, can somebody do me a favor? I want you to type the phrase drugs, guns, war in chat. I'm pretty sure that this person who's also stupid about us being pro-vaccine in terms of the boosters is also stupid and saying that we can't, like, oh no, in the YouTube chat. Because I'm pretty sure that you can do that. I'm pretty sure that it will still work. Yeah, so you can do it.
One of us can comment in the YouTube chat?
Yeah, somebody did
Wait,
it.
why? Is this person accusing us of being boosted?
No, well, I mean, yes, he did. He said, I can hear Anthony Felton calling you to come get your 18th booster. I have
Felton?
not... Yeah, I see, I didn't get one of the COVID vaccines. You're talking to the wrong group. We are not the motherfuckers that is.
God, this is really drawing out the conservatards in that.
Yeah, exactly. And so... And
God, normies are... Why are political normies so fucking stupid? Like, they are such binary thinkers.
Exactly. And this one specifically, he said, I like Trump because he made his money through real estate. He didn't sell... And then it's like D in parentheses space rugs, G period uns or raw, with a capital W. So he was just
So
not...
how does he feel about Operation Warp Speed and the fact that Trump hasn't shut the fuck up about how he's responsible for the vaccine existing?
Yeah, Operation Warp Speed. Also, Tarantulas, by the way, you're better than the other people in this chat. I can say that, because you're actually willing to interface with what we're saying. But there's a significant amount of people who've just come in and fucking ragdolled their bullshit all this fucking time. So, yeah, so, Mark says, I was a dumbass and I had the first 1 and 2 from Moderna. Yeah, like, well, I'm not going to say you were a dumbass. My family members had it, and they're not stupid. But I also watched them get sick repeatedly, and I also... This is something I didn't bring up during the last stream, the RFK one, but I'll just say it. Before the vaccine, I had 2 grandparents. After the vaccine, after 1 series, like, within the same month, they both died. So... Like, I now no longer have grandparents.
Jeez, I'm sorry.
So...
Yeah, I had the first 2 because I was forced to by my job, or I would have been unemployed. But, yeah, thankfully I did not have any significant side effects. But, yeah, I wouldn't have gotten them had I not been coerced.
Yeah. Real quick, John, you have to book. Is there anything else you want to say? We'll be probably wrapping soon and doing a part 2 next Sunday.
Not specifically, but thanks for the invitation. And it was interesting hearing the similarities and differences between everybody's thinking here.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, glad you were able to join us, and we'll be definitely doing more like anarchist theory streams. So I definitely hope you'll continue to join us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And be well. Thank you for showing. We'll be wrapping soon-ish. We'll probably go over the next one or two, and then we'll call it for the evening.
All right.
Well, while we're on the COVID topic, should we go over Bhattacharya? Because like he's the only pick that I'm like actually kind of interested in. Like,
Yeah, let's.
or should we save that to the next stream when?
We'll do that. We'll do that now. We can do that now, and we'll go over him. Because if that's something you have a lot of notes on, I don't want to waste your
Well,
notes.
no, I definitely do not. But like, yeah, it does like his appointment does indicate, I think, a step in the right direction as far as like COVID policy. Like, like it shows that I don't, or at least, well, I'm hoping it means that we're not going to have a repeat of 2020. I hope. It's not that I don't think there could be lockdowns for some other bullshit manufactured reason, but yeah, I mean, this is the guy who was slandered and censored by mainstream media for months because he was not completely on board with the lockdowns and the universal vaccine and mask mandates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although again, I mean, this is another swamp creature, affiliated with the Rand Corporation, affiliated with UCLA, IEPR, like at Stanford. Like he's very much like normie tier politics. He just had a difference of take in the COVID-19 pandemic.
But that was huge though back
Yeah.
then. Like simply saying like, okay, I think we need to shift policy to focus on protecting the most vulnerable while letting young people go about their lives and run their businesses and
Right.
not end up broke and destitute.
And the Great Barrington
I think that's
Declaration.
the way to go, and that will eventually have herd immunity.
And the Great Barrington Declaration was something relatively good, I think.
It was, but yeah, I just remember it being framed as like, they're just crazy conspiracy theorists. Just ignore them.
Yeah.
Like they went to great lengths to slander the people involved.
Absolutely.
I think in regards to, I have heard a bit about him, and I've been planning to look more into it, but simply too much stuff happening. I think there were some criticisms in regards to the validity of some certain scientific studies he had made in regards to COVID that brought him criticism. Whatever the case with that, it could be a thing where he did not do the proper scientific study in regard the scientific methods in regards to that. But I would have to look more into that.
Yeah,
And even then, in regards to the general things of being against the whole universal like stay-at-home orders, I think that's definitely a positive. It's just a thing of where you have to be skeptical of why exactly he was chosen, because he could, if he was chosen, it could be simply RFK liked him, of course, for his criticism, because RFK was also critical. But again, you have to be wary. There are definitely possibly some choices that were positive. How much power some of those choices were, those picks were, and what the catch is to those picks, you have to be careful about, and you have to look into. I'll say that much. That I can't really say too much on whether he had any specifically bad policy positions or anything like that. It's more a thing of like cautious optimism, maybe, in regards to him.
Right. No, in that case, I mean, maybe it would be best to pick up back on Bhattacharya next week. But
Yeah. And by the way, if y'all in the chat want to leave your hate comments next week, feel free. We'll be doing streams like probably multiple times this week. Certainly Friday, certainly Sunday. We'll be going over RFK Jr. On Friday. Like we'll be doing a part 2, really drilling down on him. And we'll also be going over fucking the rest of the cabinet picks as much as we can get through next Sunday as well. So there's going to be plenty of ways for you to see it in the comments, and I hope you do, because it's giving me ratings. So, what times? 8 p.m. Eastern. And by the way, Mark and Tarantulas, you two have been more reasonable than the others. So just know that when I'm talking about seething, I'm probably not talking about you. We probably won't agree 100%, but we will probably find some common ground. And this channel's
Did you tell them to seethe?
well, I told people to seethe in general. I hope they do, because we're
I
getting.
need to start opening up. I need to start like actually opening up the chat and following along. I'm like, might be best that I just don't read what the shit they're saying, but
Some of it's kind of gross. Some of it's fine. It doesn't. I let it roll off me, because I know that if what we're saying is reasonable, then it doesn't matter that certain people wouldn't like it. So whatever, you know. So, but we've got a few more we can go over today. We've got over here. Let's hit Pam Bondi. Florida's first attorney general. She's a Trump loyalist. She's part of America First Policy Institute, which is Trump's legal defense thing. She was a loyalist with him when the legal scandals started to come out. And
what, like the Russiagate stuff, or the like
all of it, really.
Charges that, yeah, like the real estate fraud charges, or the, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and like, so,
or the campaign finance fraud accusations, or
basically all of it, if I understand correctly. She's also opposed to, for those of you in the chat who said that they like weed or use it, she's opposed to medical marijuana, as is multiple other Trump picks. And she wants to be able to charge people with pre-existing conditions higher premiums on insurance. She loves fucking banning gay marriage. She's a very boilerplate conservative type. And she's also basically a neocon in a lot of ways. She also had she's associated with the Church of Scientology, and she helped. She got help from the Church of Scientology with her political campaigns.
Oh, right. I think I remember hearing that one. Yeah, they have the connections to be able to make things happen.
Yeah, and so
amazing how many powerful people are connected to them.
Yeah, and she had a fundraising event, so she convinced the governor to postpone an execution, because she just kill this person on some other day. You know, I've got to make money. And so it's just there's so many little things like that, so many weird sort of swamp creature behaviors. And so
she's basically just overall not a good person, politically wise. Even if he, granted, I think in regards to the whole defending a ban of same-sex marriage in Florida, I believe it was called Amendment 2.
Right.
It was supposedly she's just defending it because job as a lawyer. But even so, I think that's I think at some point you have to ask why exactly you're defending the constitutionality of a ban on same-sex marriage. Generally, it's kind of hard to think you're not in support of that to some extent. It's just, and with her other actions in regards to connections with the Trump administration in regards to the whole conservative line. There's not really any question in my mind that she is she's basically a conservative. She is maybe more of a hard-line conservative in regards to certain policies. So overall, yeah, not good, not good. I think you kind of already went over all the points, to be honest. But,
Also, just to be clear for the question in chat, if this was directed at me, I do not drink alcohol. I do not. I'm clean and sober for many years. But I also oppose the war on drugs entirely. And all sorts of prohibition. People should be able to put in their body what they want, and anything that gets in the way of that is a claim of ownership over another human being.
It's honestly hilarious how many people they think that like if you're opposed to drug prohibition, it must be because you just want to do drugs yourself.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. Like, okay, yeah, I will be the first to say I think okay, you should be free to shoot heroin, but I will tell you, shooting heroin is probably a very bad idea, and you should not do it. However, having it be illegal just makes the problem worse.
Yeah.
not to mention, you can already
Not a
legally
difficult
like take
concept.
heroin as long as it's prescribed in a different form. I think, which it's like it's heroin is, if I'm remembering correctly, a type of opiate. And
Well, yeah, 6-monoacetylmorphine. It's just like 1.5 times more potent than morphine, which is still used widespread, used in hospitals for pain control.
Yeah, and like, if anybody doesn't like drug use, then they should definitely avoid RFK Jr., who said that one of the things that got him through school was heroin. So, like, and he says that's a quote. You don't have to.
Wait. How would that help you through school? That'll just like make you lazy and irresponsible with your schoolwork.
If you use heroin in a certain way, it might like calm anxiety. I don't know.
I mean, in very small doses, yeah, but opiates usually just make people lazy.
Well, I don't know how that would have helped him, but he said it got him through school. So
Interesting. Very interesting.
and it's like, yeah, and it's little things like that like make me question other things. Like he said he was vaccine injured, which would not surprise me that made him his voice sound like that. But it also wouldn't surprise me if he caused also other complex organ issues because of consistent heroin use, if that's the case. So,
Not sure why it would cause the vocal cord problem, but what was he saying that what did like the vaccine? I don't know which one he's saying caused the problem, but did he have some kind of like autoimmune response?
I think that's his claim. I think that's one of the reasons he's so strongly anti-vax is because he says it fucked up my voice, yo.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a nuanced topic because like I am more or less pro-vaccination, but each one needs to be weighed. Like you need to weigh the risks versus benefits. Like, yeah. I'm
pro-research.
My kid had a very bad reaction to the varicella vaccine. Like, she ended up with shingles, which was practically unheard of in children until the varicella vaccine became a thing. And it's very hard to find like numbers on how often this happens because pretty much all the reports I could find were anecdotal, but it is a rare side effect. And it came back like 3 times too. Like, yeah, that was not a thing in kids until they started vaccinating for chickenpox, which most people, like when I was a kid, everyone got the chickenpox. You had it once and then you were immune for life.
Yeah.
So it does like there is an argument to be made. Okay. Like first, there are certain vaccines where the risks probably, or where the benefits probably don't outweigh the risks.
Well, and to be clear, this is a good comment in chat here. It was likely due to a lack of aspiration on a first-gen poke. You get that sludge in the bloodstream you get in the pow-pow. I saw a significant amount of good research that said that like a lack of aspiration was a problem there, and also generally like bad places for the needles. The doctors who were trained who were told to like mass vaccinate weren't properly trained on where this vaccine should go and why. So they were putting in
Which one?
The COVID jab.
I'm not sure why that would be, why location would matter, but I do know, like, the argument, like, with the mRNA vaccine was that, I mean, it's not the mRNA, but it's the delivery mechanism, the nanoparticles, that, like, they travel far away from the injection site, so the effect is a lot more widespread than it would be with just a standard, like, weakened virus vaccine.
What was being said in these studies was generally, and I looked at, I believe, if I recall correctly, some meta studies about this. And what they seem to say is that intramuscular was the way to go, if I recall correctly. I might not be recalling correctly, so don't just take this like as my word. But, and I'm not a doctor, so like, but
that's how most vaccines are done. They're just given in the.
But some doctors were doing it intravenously, whether accidentally or because they were stupid. Like some doctors were apparently putting it in the veins, and this was causing some vaccine injuries.
Oh, well, that, like, you definitely don't want to. I don't think you'd want to give any vaccine intravenously.
Yeah,
I think you're supposed to pull the plunger out to make sure you're not in a vein before you inject it.
Yeah. And you're supposed to aspirate it to make sure there are no air bubbles or whatever. You know, like, there's a lot of stuff that a lot of nurses were, like, slapdashing. Here's your, you know, your 18th booster. They stopped caring as much about proper procedure because it just made, you know, became too routine. And they needed to get through, like, 800 of them in a day, so they didn't give a shit. You know, and so a lot of people got injured because they got lax.
Yeah.
So... people keep on saying we're getting vaccines, that we're Democrats. Feel free to subscribe and continue saying that because these views are helping my algorithm.
Wait. So if you got vaccinated as a child, you must be a Democrat.
Well, and
so, I mean, I think most of us got the childhood vaccines because, you know, we were babies.
Yeah, I'm just doomed to a life of Obama support. Yeah, so just to be clear, the only vaccine I currently promote, like, is the tetanus vaccine, because that's a relatively good one. It's got a good track record, very well studied.
I'm like 20 years out of date on mine because, it always leaves my arms stiff for a week. So I'm like, if I step on a rusty nail, I'll probably get a tetanus booster. Otherwise,
well, I do that all the time when I do, like, a roofing or demolition job, because that's, like, I probably, like, I surprise some of these new people here, but, like, I work, and, I'm, like, not some, like, fucking weird fluffy guy who's, like, just, like, your stereotypical liberal college, blah, 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 blah. You can find lots of, pictures of me on various roofs or doing various demo jobs, so I like the fact that I'm tetanus vaccinated. I'll put it that way. Because there's a lot of times when you encounter a lot of the environments where tetanus is likely to breed. Lots of iron oxide next to a lot of, like, either mold or fecal matter or some other decay, and tetanus breeds there. So definitely, if you do anything at all, really, just get the tetanus. But, like, to me, that's the extent that I promote. I actively told, like, everybody, including my family, not to get the COVID jab. And I was going through the city maskless telling people in Spokane not to get it. There were some people who literally threatened to fuck me up because I was saying this kind of shit.
I was being told that I was a horribly selfish grandma killer, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you just lack empathy and you want to let grandma die because you want to leave your house and not sit around being unemployed. And yeah. It's one of those situations where you're like, did every single fucking person just collectively lose their minds? Like, people, there is always a risk every time you go out that you might, like, contract some virus, or you might have something that you could accidentally spread to someone without realizing it. Like, for fuck's sake, like, if you're that weak and immunocompromised, maybe you need to stay home until this passes. But
well, also, I literally have a friend who I've known for 18 years, and he's, like, you know, massively immunocompromised. He's got Addison's disease. I don't think he got the jab. Last time I asked him, it was like years into it, and he said, no, I didn't get it. And he, I think, got it once and was fucked up for a bit, but then, you know, got over it. And he has Addison's disease.
Well, if you're severely immunocompromised, there's not really much point in getting vaccinated because it won't work.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, and so, like, that's the thing. Like, We'll be calling it relatively soon. I'll give people a chance to give their outros, except Kareem, who's apparently jacking off under the desk.
Been a while.
Yeah. Um, like, but feel free to subscribe because we are trying to do something better with these streams, and I think that it's actually working. Like I put the asshole title up because it brought a lot of people here, but like ultimately, I'm doing like the stream in a way that like actually interfaces with what people are saying. So, if y'all want to come, feel free. The chat has open borders. Anyway,
So, Kareem, now that you've got all this newfound clarity,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But if I was
well,
in
that-
a punk band, I'd have newfound glory.
Yeah, but you're rubbing it into your hair. Is that why it stands up that much?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just like I gotta
that's
get.
not hair gel.
That's Kareem.
Yeah, that's Kareem.
Kareem.
Anyway,
Anarcho beat meat.
yeah, right. So, we'll be calling it for today. We'll do another 2 hours next Sunday. Y'all feel free to like, share, and subscribe, or dislike. Comment. Hey, tell all your Trump supporting friends to leave a comment. I don't give a shit. Leave a comment. Tell me I'm a liberal. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Do it.
There, liberal.
Anyway, with all that being said, let's give some you can give some like general statements on the thing where you can be found. John, Rose, Kareem.
Well, where I can be found, again, Liberty Centuries. We have a Medium publication, and we have a Twitter account. We just posted a new article from a guest writer this morning in regards to a way of how the Libertarian Party should be coordinated and organized so as to go towards a more radical political movement and more radical and individualistic collective action. In regards to final thoughts on the cabinet pick so far, overall they're not good. They're overall like leaning more towards a kind of neoconservative, almost fascistic, might makes right, peace through strength kind of policy position rather than one that is based on, freedom for all, flourishing and well-being for all. And yeah, I don't really have much else that I can say about that.
All right, Rose.
Right. So I think by now you probably all know where to find me. You can find me on Facebook. Also, look, the New York Libertarian Party also has its own podcast now. It's called The Liberty Test. Yeah, I'll try to remember to drop a link in the comment section. It needs to be moved to a permanent channel, but yeah, that's to be decided. Otherwise, yeah, I'll see everybody next time we continue this conversation.
All right, Kareem.
All right, I'm an ANCAP man. ANCAP stand. All right, so you can find me at Kareem6633 on them Twitters. Check out attackthesystem.com because it's cool. And Keith Preston writes them good articles. You can also find me at Essential Libertarians. We'll be posting there a little bit. Got some cool podcasts that I'm coming up with. And I'll get more information about that. Also, Zachary Marlowe from Moneyless Society is working on a really cool film. Going to be helping out with that, with some crypto. So, yeah. And you can check out Jack Lloyd's work at volencap.com. I recommend taking a look. His new stuff looks really, really good. And if you want a real good unity community, join Mad Liberty. And that's pretty much it. I'm pretty sure the Trump cabinet is going to be more of the same thing. But people are going to be convinced it's different this time. And I expect a whole lot of people to either jump ship or to be like, come on, Kareem. At least it's not Kamala. At least it's not Kamala. Jeez, Kamala would have been worse. Hillary would have been worse. Come on, man. That's what I expect. So, yeah. Should be a fun time. good time in the neighborhood.
All right. And what I'll say is, first off, Kareem needs to invest in a pair of earbuds. And then,
We can donate them.
yeah, right?
I have
Maybe some of
earbuds.
these people in the chat, maybe somebody would be willing to donate a pair of earbuds to Kareem.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Um,
They want to continue to dunk on us in the future.
So, what I'll say is, first off, appreciate everybody showing up. And another thing is, tell all of your conservative friends to show up as well. The more the merrier. And then the third thing is, the general vibe that I want to give off is, we need to be very, very certain about who we support. And not just support somebody because he conveys vague platitudes that seem to be in our direction. And Trump doesn't convey the platitudes that even I would want. But if he's going to try to, appeal to y'all, and if y'all really need, like, somebody who's going to drain the swamp, then you got to be consistent. You gotta be consistent, and you got to say, Trump didn't drain the swamp. He's filling it with swamp creatures, and we've got to either, like, hold him accountable for that, or understand that we got duped, and the next step is to speak against this administration. I'm building a broad-based coalition of people who are trying to do something about all forms of tyranny. And if that sounds good to you, then awesome. And if it doesn't, then you're the thing in the way of freedom. And I hope you understand that while you leave your snide comments, because there's plenty of room on the boat if the boat is going to sink. But if we want to understand what we need to do, some of these people are going to have to get kicked off, or we're going to capsize. So understand, we can't have swamp creatures if we're going to drain the swamp. It doesn't work. We can't have tyranny and corruption if the thing we're supposed to be opposing is tyranny and corruption. So while it'd be awesome if Trump did provide us with a more libertarian or, like, less swamp-like future, I have zero confidence. And we will find out even more reason the next week why you should try to smash the fucking state.